The sun hung high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the bustling city street. People hurried along the sidewalks, their footsteps echoing against the concrete. Some were lost in conversations on their phones, while others rushed to catch the next bus or subway. The sounds of honking horns and distant chatter created a lively backdrop that felt alive with energy. Scents from nearby food carts wafted through the air, mixing with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee from a nearby cafe. Amidst this vibrant scene, a man stood out, not because of his presence but rather his disheveled appearance. His worn clothes hung loosely on his frame, and his hair was unkempt. Clutched in his arms was a small baby, wrapped in a thin blanket that did little to shield her from the cool breeze. The man's eyes held a mix of determination and concern as he looked around, scanning the crowd. As people passed him by, whispers filled the air. Some shot him scornful glances, while others outright laughed, making cruel remarks about his situation. The man appeared unfazed by their judgment, focused solely on the tiny life he held close. In this busy world where everyone seemed to rush forward, few noticed the depth of his struggle or the story waiting to unfold. As the man stood on the sidewalk, the world around him continued to whirl by. He wore a tattered jacket that had seen better days, with frayed sleeves and stains that told stories of hardship. His jeans were baggy and faded, and his worn-out shoes barely held together. Despite his unkempt appearance, there was a tenderness in the way he cradled the baby against his chest, her tiny fingers curled tightly around his thumb. People rushed past, their eyes darting away from him as if he were invisible. A group of teenagers snickered and pointed, making jokes that cut through the air like knives. An older woman clutched her purse tighter as she walked by, casting a look of disgust in his direction. Some muttered under their breath, shaking their heads at the sight of him. "What kind of man walks around like that with a baby?" one passerby said loudly, drawing nods of agreement from those around. Yet, the man remained calm. He gently adjusted the blanket around the baby, offering her a sense of warmth and safety. In that moment, he seemed to create a small bubble of peace amid the chaos surrounding him. Unseen by most, he was a father doing his best in a world quick to judge based on appearances alone. The atmosphere around the man grew heavier as more people passed by, their whispers turning into loud, mocking laughter. A group of young adults stopped in front of him, pointing and snickering. "Look at that guy! What kind of dad does that?" one of them exclaimed, causing the others to burst into a fit of giggles. Nearby, a middle-aged couple exchanged disapproving glances. "He shouldn't be holding that baby if he can't even take care of himself," the woman said, shaking her head in disdain. Her partner nodded, adding, "Someone needs to call social services. That child deserves better." Their voices dripped with judgment, painting the man as a failure in their eyes. As these conversations swirled around him, the man tightened his grip on the baby, as if to shield her from the harsh words. He caught snippets of comments like, "He probably just wants money for drugs, and why doesn't he get a job?" Each remark felt like a jab, but he focused on the warmth of the baby in his arms. Despite the humiliation and disdain thrown his way, he remained undeterred. In his heart, he knew that appearances could be deceiving. While the world rushed past, quick to mock, he held on to a truth that only he understood, a truth that would soon change everything. As the crowd continued to mock the man, those with less disdain began to take a closer look at the baby he held so protectively. Her small face was barely visible beneath a thin blanket, but what could be seen revealed a fragile beauty. Tiny strands of dark hair peeked out from the edge of the blanket, and her cheeks were rosy, suggesting she was well loved despite her circumstances. The baby clung to her father with surprising strength, her fingers wrapped around his thumb as though it were a lifeline. Whenever he moved slightly, she burrowed deeper against him, seeking comfort and security in his presence. It was clear that she felt safe in his arms, a stark contrast to the judgment surrounding them. Curiosity sparked among a few onlookers who noticed how intently the baby watched her father. There was a deep bond between them, one that shone through despite the chaotic environment around them. Some began to wonder about their story, questioning how this seemingly homeless man came to be carrying such a precious little life. Whispers shifted from mockery to concern as more people observed the tender connection shared between father and child. In that moment, it became harder for some to see him as simply an object of ridicule. They began considering what unseen struggles had brought them to this point on the bustling city street. Suddenly, the scene around the man began to fade, and the sounds of the bustling street transformed into crackling flames and frantic cries. In an instant, the crowd vanished, replaced by the chaotic image of a burning building. Thick smoke billowed from the windows as the glow of flames licked at the walls, creating a scene of chaos and desperation. In the middle of it all stood the man, his face set with determination as he rushed toward the inferno. He could hear the terrified screams of a child trapped inside, and his heart raced with fear and resolve. Without thinking twice, he plunged into the thick smoke, holding his breath as he navigated through the heat. As he reached the second floor, he spotted her, a tiny baby lying alone in a room filled with smoke. Fear surged through him, but he quickly scooped her up into his arms. The baby's cries echoed in his ears, fueling his courage as he turned and hurried back towards the staircase. With every step, danger loomed closer, but adrenaline pushed him forward. He burst through the front door just as flames roared behind him, collapsing onto the pavement outside with the baby cradled protectively in his embrace. As he gazed down at her, relief washed over him. In that moment, he became not just a man in tattered clothes, but a hero safeguarding a precious life against overwhelming odds. As the man dashed into the burning building, the heat enveloped him like a suffocating blanket. Flames danced along the walls, crackling angrily as they consumed everything in their path. Thick smoke billowed around him, stinging his eyes and making it hard to breathe. He felt panic rising in his chest, but the desperate cries of the baby propelled him forward, urging him to push through the agony of his own fear. Navigating through the chaos was no easy feat. He stumbled over debris, charred furniture and broken glass littered the floor. Each step felt like a battle against an unseen enemy. His heart raced as he fought to stay focused, reminding himself that every second counted. "Stay strong," he whispered to himself, gripping a nearby doorframe for support as he caught his breath. As he reached the second floor, he could barely see through the haze of smoke. Yet, through it all, he spotted her, the tiny baby alone in a room filled with swirling darkness. Gathering all his strength, he lunged forward and scooped her into his arms, feeling her warmth against his chest. The return journey was even more treacherous. Flames licked at his heels as he hurried down the staircase. He could feel the heat intensifying around him, each step becoming a test of his determination. But with every cry from the baby echoing in his ears, he pushed through the pain and fear until he burst into daylight, emerging victorious from the inferno. The bustling sounds of the city returned as the scene shifted back to the busy street. The man remained on the sidewalk, still cradling the baby in his arms, yet the harsh judgments from people nearby had not faded. Many bystanders continued to whisper and stare, their eyes filled with misunderstanding. A woman passed by and snorted, probably just another scam artist. Someone else chimed in, "He doesn't deserve that baby. Look at him." None of them realized that he was more than just a disheveled figure. He was a hero who had braved flames to save an innocent life. Despite the negativity swirling around him, he maintained his focus on the tiny girl nestled against him. Her gentle breathing reassured him, and he felt a swell of love that could not be shaken by the unkind words of strangers. Around them, laughter and chatter filled the air, a stark contrast to the tumultuous fire that had bonded them so closely just moments before. As curious glances exchanged between some passers-by grew into thoughtful looks, the man stood tall against judgment. Though many saw only what they wanted to see, an unkempt man carrying a baby, he knew their story was one of bravery and love that defied appearances, waiting patiently to be recognized. Amid the ongoing judgment, a young woman standing nearby pulled out her phone, intending to check social media. As she scrolled, a breaking news alert caught her eye. The headline read, "Heroic rescue from blaze, man saves baby in apartment fire." Her heart raced as she tapped the article, and the details began to unfold. The report described the very fire that had engulfed the building earlier that day. It detailed how a man had bravely entered the flames, risking his life to save a trapped infant. The article included a photo of the man, and her eyes widened in disbelief. It was him. The same disheveled figure standing on the sidewalk, cradling the baby against him. She looked up from her phone, realizing the truth. This man was not just a homeless stranger, he was a hero who had faced unimaginable danger to save a life. A wave of understanding washed over her as she processed what she had just learned. Feeling compelled to share the news, she called out to others around her, "Everyone! This man saved a baby from that fire today." As more people overheard her, conversation shifted from mockery to surprise and admiration. Slowly but surely, the crowd began to recognize him for who he truly was, a courageous father and hero deserving of respect and gratitude. As the young woman's words spread through the gathered crowd, the air shifted dramatically. Faces that had previously worn expressions of disdain began to soften with curiosity and concern. One by one, people turned their attention back to the man, no longer viewing him as a mere specter of poverty, but as someone who had shown extraordinary bravery. A manager from a local store stepped forward, his earlier sarcasm replaced by a look of guilt. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I didn't know, none of us did." Nearby, a couple exchanged meaningful glances, their earlier contempt gone as they realized the man had risked everything for the sake of another. The baby's soft cooing seemed to draw more sympathy from onlookers, making them take a closer look at her bright eyes and innocent smile. Slowly, whispers of respect replaced the laughter and mockery. Curious bystanders began to gather around, asking questions about how he had managed to save her from the fire. In that moment, judgment transformed into admiration as people lined up to offer help. Donations were made, and a few even offered their own warmth in the form of jackets. The man stood taller as compassion radiated from the crowd, finally recognized not just as a homeless figure but as a courageous hero deserving of love and support. As the crowd began to disperse, their hearts filled with newfound respect for the man, a deeper reflection settled in. It was a moment for everyone to consider how easily judgments are made based on appearances alone. The disheveled man had been seen only as a homeless figure, and yet, beneath the worn clothes was a courageous hero who had risked his life to save a baby. People often rush to conclusions without knowing the full story, allowing superficial impressions to cloud their understanding. This incident served as a poignant reminder that everyone has a story, one that may be hidden behind the surface. The man's kindness and bravery were overlooked at first, overshadowed by preconceived notions and societal biases. As they walked away from the scene, individuals mulled over their reactions. They began to recognize their own flaws in judgment and how they might have treated others similarly without understanding their struggles. The story of this man encouraged them to approach others with compassion and empathy instead of disdain. In a world quick to judge, it became clear that taking the time to look beyond appearances could lead to remarkable discoveries about courage, love, and resilience in the most unexpected places. Everyone is fighting their own battles, and sometimes, those who appear the most troubled are hiding the deepest wells of strength within them. In conclusion, the story of the disheveled man and the baby he rescued highlights a crucial lesson about compassion and understanding. It reminds us that outward appearances often mask profound truths and hidden struggles. Many people, like the man in question, may bear the weight of their circumstances without revealing the strength and bravery that lie beneath. As we navigate our daily lives, it is essential to remember that everyone has their own battles, stories that may never be visible at first glance. The shift in perception among the crowd serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly judgments can be formed and how easily they can be changed when we take the time to understand others. Let this tale inspire us to approach those we encounter with kindness and curiosity rather than disdain. By choosing empathy over judgment, we open ourselves to recognizing the true character of individuals, which often shines brighter than any surface impression might suggest. In a world filled with hasty assumptions, we each have the opportunity to be a source of support and understanding. Embracing these values not only enriches our own lives but also fosters a sense of community where every person feels seen and valued for who they truly are, beyond mere appearances.